Are you happy with the quality and quantity of higher apprenticeships which are being offered and done in London at the moment? I understand there's fewer than 3,000 being done at the moment every year.
I can't comment on the quality of the individual higher apprenticeships, but if I understand your question to be, am I happy with that only there is that number of higher ones, and actually all the other apprenticeships aren't actually really apprenticeships at all? Question mark. I would agree with what the question that you're putting and the premise of that question. I think too many things are being labelled as apprenticeships when they're nothing of the sort, and it's certainly something that I would like us to tackle. And I wouldn't want to see apprenticeship levy money funding effectively just low-paid work masquerading as some sort of entry-level apprenticeship.
These are done sort of after 18, so the sort of people who've done the advanced apprenticeships up to 18 and then go on to something which gives them extra skills, particularly in tech industry and construction and so on. So, I mean, I would welcome your, your sort of sentiment that there should be more. But is there any sort of way in which you think we could create more of those in London so that people who are young people in London can benefit from them and the skills which they would give to them?
Well, if it comes down to funding, then we can only really rely on the apprenticeship levy, and that's why I think it's important that London actually is able to take advantage of the entire pot created by employers, rather than risk, as I said earlier, the losing a significant proportion of it that would remain unspent at the end of the 2 years.
Yeah, I know perhaps big businesses in East London and so on would offer some of these, and perhaps the tech companies around the Silicon Roundabout, Old Street and so on. But do you see perhaps a need for there to be more over the entire area of London rather than just certain sectors and certain geographical areas?
Yes, I mean, there would be welcome, but I have to confess that I haven't got any ready, off the top of my head, ideas about how we expand to across the board. I mean, I'd certainly a lot of areas struggle from where you have SMEs and the capacity to be able to take people on, and then also at the other end of the spectrum, sometimes the big firms, say over the other side of the river in the city, they don't have the apprentice level opportunities. So what would be good would be the ability for big firms that are creating the big pots of apprenticeship levy to be able to discharge their apprenticeship duties through their supply chain. And if we could actually, if that was facilitated, if it was facilitated, we would, and because at the moment it isn't actually even possible to do that. So to any meaningful extent. So yes, so being able to do that, then actually that matches up the financial capacity with those areas that those companies that would actually have that reach the right level to actually supply the apprenticeship.
I just wonder if this is an area perhaps you can think about a bit more, because I do know from speaking to businesses and people in education that these are one of the key areas, the higher level apprenticeships that businesses, particularly in certain sectors, construction and tech, would love more London young people to have, because maybe they don't need people who have done a degree, but need people who've done more than A-levels to have these kind of higher apprenticeships, which it was sort of, academically equivalent to academic level between A-level and degrees, but in a vocational nature. And I think it's something that people haven't really looked at much before. So perhaps, you having this new LEAP partnership, it's a great opportunity for you to look into that and develop that area for London's young people. So it would be great if you could, that's something that you could consider and actually create opportunities. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. I mean, I think one of the a good example that I need to go back and check that it's okay for me to that it's okay for me to use it. But one of the large firms that was moving into that's already in London, but is consolidating and expanding, and was planning to take on several thousand additional employees, but they were all going to be graduates. And so that firm and the apprenticeship levy of that firm should be able to provide plenty of opportunities if they were working with kind of tech companies that we want to see expanded around Silicon Roundabout and elsewhere. So I think that's probably a good example of where actually someone who's levy rich but opportunity poor could be connected with all those SMEs that could actually offer those tech apprenticeships.
Great. And a different thing I'd like to ask about, which comes back to something you mentioned before, in actually trying to create a seamless transition and connection between academic, the A levels and the degrees, and also the vocational qualifications. I mean, you're probably aware of university technical colleges, which are kind of an innovative new type of school for 14 to 18-year-olds, which do offer technical vocational training. There's, I think, only 48 in the country, and I'm not sure the exact number in London, just 9 or 10. I've never heard anyone say anything bad about them. Everything I've heard about them, they praise them to the skies. What do you think of them, and how do you think you might be able to support the creation of more of them in London?
Yeah, you're right that there's nothing. Well, there is an issue about UTCs which I think is pretty fundamental, and that is that how do you convince parents to take their child out of a school age 13-ish when they fall, and that's probably the biggest barrier to their success, because there are existing colleges. I don't want to kind of say something inappropriate and damn them all, but we've got to be very careful, and they have to be very careful, and the system of UTCs has to be careful that it doesn't that it's not seen as kind of the last resort or the sink school for those who aren't achieving academically at secondaries. Certainly the UTCs wouldn't want to become that, but then how do you sell them as something to say to parents? And the best pupils at the schools, how do you convince heads to release or encourage their higher performing pupils to say, oh, actually that's really appropriate for you? And I've seen this played out in real life, these conversations and the subsequent lack of success of a UTC because it was a UTC in an area where all the schools were very committed to achieving a high academic approach. All of them wanted sixth forms. And also they were committed to helping the less able pupils succeed and get the 5 or more. None of them took the approach which that could be described as, well, we'll just parcel off the less academic kids to elsewhere. And the UTC ultimately folded because it couldn't attract the numbers. And I've seen it happen elsewhere in London, including to ones where initially they were successful and there was excitement about them, but I think that they failed for pretty much the same reason. It's about convincing people to transfer age 14.
There are still some in London that are successful, though. And what do you think are the reasons for their success? The ones that are still in operation.
I'd have to look into it because because clearly they've overcome that fundamental barrier of convincing people, and it'll be interesting to know why that. Well,